Hello folks, it's the Pace Chaser again. Welcome to the model review video, and this time we've got the Corgi Original Omnibus Company OOC 176 scale AEC Routemaster, and the one we've got is catalogue number RM16309A in delivery of East Midland and released in October of 2015. So I've not reviewed a Routemaster for a while, so here is one. I've done some other ones previously. I've done the EFE 176 scale version, I've done the Corgi 150th scale model, this one's big brother, and I've done the Sunstar 124th version. I'll put some links in the description to this video to those if you should wish to watch them. And I've covered the history of the real Routemaster in at least one of those, so I'm not going to do it again here. So what we'll do in this video is we'll look at the history of the Corgi OOC casting. I'll talk a bit about the history of East Midland Motor Services because it's quite an interesting story. And equally interesting, if not more so, we'll look at the history of the bus modelled RM1164. So I've taken it out of its box already. The box is a standard Corgi one, just a cardboard outer and a plastic inner tray. I've got the limited edition certificate there, model number 52 of 1300 it says. There are actually 650 of the 46309As, destination 16 to Clipston, and there were 650 of the 15A, destination Mansfield, the 46309B. So between the two of them there were 1300. But just 650 of each. As I said, this is model number 52. So Corgi were quite late to the party with their 176 scale Routemaster. EFE had introduced theirs way back in 1993, and the bigger Corgi Classics 150th scale one had been introduced in the mid-90s. But it wasn't until January of 2010 that this one appeared in model shops. From then, January 2010 up to the time of recording the video in September of 2025, there have been 13 individual releases in different liveries, but with the A and B variants and catalogue numbers, and in one case the C variant as well. There's been 23 different releases. So for example, there were two, so East Midland is one livery, but there were two releases of it, the A and the B. So there have been 23 releases all in with the A's and B's, and there's been a further two released as part of sets with other vehicles. The casting remains in production as I'm recording this. A further variant in Beetle's livery has been announced and is currently waiting to be released, so it's very much still being produced now. So East Midland Motor Services. Some time ago I filmed a video entitled How Big Was United, which touched on the history of East Midland Motor Services because they came from United Automobile Services basically. I'll put a link in the description again to this video to that one if you want to watch it. But in 1920, United dispatched one of their managers, Mr. W.T. Underwood, to Clown in Nottinghamshire to establish bus operations in the area. For some reason it's not been recorded. Rather than use the United fleet name that they used everywhere else, they ran as W.T. Underwood Limited until 1927, when the company was renamed East Midland Motor Services. In the same year, 1927, the headquarters moved from Clown to Worksop, and then 3 years later, in 1930, the headquarters moved again to Chesterfield. East Midland became part of the British Electric Traction BET Group, a privately owned organisation, until 1967, when BET sold its UK bus operations to the nationalised Transport Holding Company. Meanwhile, back in 1905, trams had begun running in Mansfield under the auspices of the Mansfield District Traction Company. MDT also began running buses, and because of its tramway origins, it found itself nationalised as part of the British Electricity Authority in 1948. The BEA were given leave by the government to dispose of any non-electricity generating subsidiaries that they acquired, and as a result, Mansfield District Traction was passed to the British Transport Commission in April 1948. The British Transport Commission became the Transport Holding Company. It was renamed, and hence East Midland and Mansfield districts ended up in the same ownership. The Transport Holding Company became the National Bus Company in 1969, and NBC amalgamated Mansfield District with East Midland in 1976, although buses based in Mansfield continued to display a different fleet name, first of all Mansfield District and then later on just Mansfield. Both of the subsidiaries, East Midland and Mansfield Districts, used the leaf green livery under National Bus Company. Around the time of deregulation in 1986, East Midland adopted a rather nice two-tone green and cream livery, with either East Midland or Mansfield and District fleet names as appropriate. In 1987, the company expanded under the name Frontrunner into Greater Manchester and somewhat bizarrely into Brentwood in Essex, the latter operation bringing an express service from Chesterfield to Essex to cycle vehicles for maintenance. It must have been quite an experience in the dual-purpose Bristol RE. On the 5th of February 1988, East Midland was privatised by sale to its management, but in April 1989 it was sold again to Stagecoach Group. The new owners introduced their famous, or some would say infamous, stripy livery, pulled the plug on the Essex operations and transferred the Greater Manchester services to fellow Stagecoach Group subsidiary Ribble Motor Services. One of the tools used by Stagecoach around this time was the AEC Routemaster, and in late 1989 several were drafted into Mansfield to deal with competition from Morn Coachways of Sutton in Ashfield. If we're being honest, they were quite a scruffy collection. One of them was in the post-deregulation two-tone green and cream. A couple were in standard Stagecoach livery, but with paint over everything, as demonstrated by this one carrying registration number OWJ871A with a white painted radiator grille. A couple of the other ones ran in all over white livery until they had some lettering added to advertise, buying advertising space on the buses. Basically, they ran as overall adverts for a bit. But by far the smartest couple were RM2063, which received Mansfield District's green and cream heritage livery, and this one, RM1164, which received the traditional East Midland yellow, cream and biscuit as modelled by Corgi. With Morn dealt with, the RMs were withdrawn from service in Mansfield after the runs on Saturday the 27th of July 1991. What was East Midland Motor Services remains with Stagecoach to this day. The Chesterfield depot was split off and put with Stagecoach Yorkshire, which basically is the old Yorkshire Traction Group operations around Barnsley and Sheffield, and the rest of the former East Midland is now joined in with the ex-Lincolnshire Roadcar operations and administered from Lincoln. So if you thought the history of East Midland Motor Services was interesting, wait until you hear about RM1164. And as always, I'm indebted to the excellent website Ian's Bus Stop for the following notes. So RM1164 was new to London Transport in March of 1962, registered 164 CLT and fitted with an AEC engine in common with most Routemasters. Like a lot of Routemasters, it transferred around various garages, both due to operational requirements and also because they all visited Aldenham Works every so often for overhaul, and it was very unusual for the bus to return to the garage from whence it had come after it had been overhauled. So in a 25-year career with London Transport, the bus worked from Norbiton, Fulwell, Willesden, Upton Park, Stamford Hill, Camberwell, Streatham and Hounslow, in several cases doing more than one stint at a particular garage. For example, Willesden ran it twice, as I believe did Stamford Hill. At its last Aldenham overhaul in September of 1983, the bus was fitted with a Leyland engine. Unfortunately, in the years that followed, it was decided to withdraw the Leyland engine ones as non-standard. Although there were about 600 of them in a fleet the size of the Routemasters, it was still non-standard, and it just allowed London Transport to reduce the spare part holding. Basically, didn't need spare parts for AEC engines, not Leyland ones. So it was removed from traffic in January of 1987 and put into storage. In May 1987, it was sold to the Stagecoach Group, who initially sent it down to Hampshire Bus, but Hampshire Bus didn't use it. So in October 1987, it made the long trek up to Glasgow to work for the Magic Bus subsidiary. In April of 1989, it was re-registered NSG 636A, which is the number it carries here, because Stagecoach developed a penchant for using the original numbers on their coaches. So thus re-registered, it was transferred down to East Midland at Mansfield, also in April 1989, where it was stored for a few months before entering service later on in 1989 in this lovely commemorative livery. After withdrawal from normal service in July 1991 with the rest of the Mansfield Routemasters, this one was returned for special duties on account of its livery until October of 1992, when it went back up to Scotland, this time to Stagecoach of Perth, who numbered it 603, painted it in standard Stagecoach striper livery and refitted it with an AEC engine. It stayed in Perth until November 1999, latterly under the auspices of Bluebird Buses, and once more on special duties after its use on normal service had ended a few years earlier. But in November of 1999 it was sold to PVS of Carlton. Don't panic, it wasn't scrapped. In July 2000 it passed briefly to a preservationist, but it was sold again 3 months later in October 2000 to Transport for London. It became one of many that were bought to support Mayor Livingston's expansion of Routemaster operations that was taking place at that time. It was stored for a little while as part of the float pool of buses for those operations, but it was sent to Marshals of Cambridge in 2002 to be refurbished, re-engined, and then when it came out it was allocated to Arriva London North, with whom it entered service on Route 38 from Clapton Garage in July of 2002. Withdrawn in the Great Routemaster Cull of 2005, the bus was stored before being presented to a Japanese museum in December of 2006. In March 2007 it was finally exported to Japan. It was reunited with its original registration number 164CLT, and photos on Flickr show it being used on a heritage service from the museum, fitted now with an offside emergency exit upstairs as well on the third window bay there, so it's got an emergency exit door sticking down into the central panelling, which looks a bit unusual, but it's very much still around by the look of it. Phew, what a life. So let's have the all-important look around now. Now when I first saw this model I thought it was the wrong size. It looked a bit squat really, but it's not. I've run a ruler over it, it's more or less spot on accurate, so it's just my eyes. So we'll have a look round, and as you will see, this model is a curious fusion of the really, really excellently good and the bog standard basically. We start off with the front as always, and we start with the front dome, and the front dome is excellent. It's probably the best one I've seen on a Routemaster model. It just captures the size and the shape of it really, really well. Some of them look a bit strange on other models I've reviewed, but this one looks really, really nice. I'll just get the camera to focus, hopefully. There we go. And then we come down to the upper deck front windows, and size and shape wise they're really good, but the problem is they haven't got any openers. This bus, in common with most Routemasters, had opening windows, and they're not modelled, so it just gives it a really strange aspect, which is unusual. You know, it's a shame really. Between next panels, the panel lining is good. The blind is really, really nice. It's behind the glazing material. The only one I've seen done, I think, on a model Routemaster, certainly in this scale. I think the Sunstar one had an attempt to do it, but in a much bigger size as that one as you'd expect it. So it looks really, really nice. As I said, the other one, 46309B, was on Route 15A to Mansfield, but I wanted 46309A, the 16 to Clipston, because I never saw these in real life in Mansfield, but I did see many pictures of them, and they were always on this route when people took photos of them. So it's got the intermediate points there, Ravensdale, Forest Town and Garibaldi, which sounded really exotic to me as a kid. But there's a full route visual video on YouTube done in more recent times, I think from a Dennis Trident with Alexander body. And they're not that exotic at all, basically. It's just some terraced houses and a few council estates. But hey, it sounded nice when I was a kid. So from the excellent blind, we go straight onto a bit of meh, which is this vent. It's really prominent on the Routemaster, but it's just printed on, and it's a real shame because they've gone to town on the blind and then just not bothered at all with the vent. And you've also got the drawback of the blind being behind the glazing is it's got this panel which has a line round it there, which kind of does affect the appearance of the amidships band a little bit. Not too much, but yeah, it's a bit, it does detract from it slightly. The indicators and the mirrors are really good, and then the front windscreen's a bit iffy basically. The wiper is there, it's a separate fitting, but it's very, very thin. It's a little bit too slender, to be honest. It should be a little bit thicker than that on a Routemaster. But the main thing about the screen is it hasn't got the opening screen. There should be a bar across there. And the real Routemasters had both parts opened. You could open the bottom bit and or the top bit. But the bar's missing, and it just completely affects the appearance of it. Some Routemasters in real life did have fixed windscreens put in, but this wasn't one of them. I've looked at photos of it in this livery. And as I say, it had opening windows upstairs, and it had the two-part windscreen with the opening bit as well. So this model hasn't got it, and it does kind of detract from the appearance a little bit. And it's a shame, because in other respects, it's really, really brilliantly good. Side lights, one there and one there. There's some reliefs in the casting, and you've got the old sort of plates there that were on it as well. Headlights are really, really good. There's an attempt to make them look like glass, as there is on the fog light there, and it looks nice. The grille looks really good. It is just kind of painted. There's no relief to it, but it looks really, really nice. The rail bus had some sort of commemorative badge on instead of the AEC one that was silver, so that's correct. I know the Mansfield one had MDT on the badge. I can't remember what this one carried in real life. Registration there, NSG636A. It's in the housing as it would be on most Routemasters. Although the rail bus had a replacement grille that didn't have this housing on it. The plate was just attached to the grille, but you wouldn't expect anybody to model that really. Bonnet area looks quite good. You've got the bus number there, RM1164. You've got the sort of mouldings there to give some grip for when the conductor was stood up there changing the blinds and things, and that looks really nice, and it all looks very good. And a little number blind underneath the canopy there, as it would be. Round to the near side, generally looks pretty decent. The panel lines are all there, the step there as well. The only problem is the opening windows, they are present, but they're just printed on, and they look printed as well. Even from a normal viewing distance, they strike a bit of a jarring note. They don't look great, but you know, they're on it. I mean, you know, they could have just left it without them on, couldn't they? So it's not too bad. The blind there is just kind of printed on as well. There's a relief to the surround of it. There's a bit of relief to it, but it's just printed on. It's not behind the glazing, but you wouldn't expect that. It looks pretty decent. The wheels, the front one's really nice. The rail bus had the wheels painted in Stagecoach's standard light grey colour, and that is a really nice model of a Routemaster front wheel there. Lovely. Got the lifeguard rail underneath there. That looks quite nice as well. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. It's just about right. Legal lettering, unladen weight. And then we come to the back wheel, and as with the early EFE one, it's got a wheel disc on. The Routemasters carried these until about the mid-60s when they were taken off because they were a bit of a pain. If you needed to get to the wheels to do anything, you had to take it off and then put it back on again afterwards. And eventually London Transport decided to stop bothering and just took them off. So by the time this was being modelled, it shouldn't have a wheel disc on. And it looks really, really obvious because it is in that light grey colour. It makes it stand out, and it does detract a little bit. I do wish manufacturers would just put normal wheels on them a lot of the time. The step area looks really nice. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, and it's picked out nicely in silver, which goes round to there. And you can see the Treadmaster flooring inside as well. That's got relief to it. The central pole looks decent, and that little handrail on the back there is lovely. It's a separately fitted piece, a bit like you would expect to get on a model railway engine, and it's very, very nice indeed. It lets itself down a little bit by the staircase being painted yellow, because obviously it wouldn't be the tops of the stairs. The treads would be like a grey colour, and then the risers were maroon with a sort of metal kick plate in the middle that was silver. So it certainly wasn't yellow, and it does kind of detract from it a little bit. It's something you can do. If you get a fine brush, you can actually paint it without taking the model to pieces. You can just very carefully sort of tickle the colours in as you need to. So you can change that if it gets on your nerves a little bit, but from normal viewing it's not too bad because you can't see it really. So yeah, it's not too bad. Go around to the back. The rear dome and the emergency exit area is very, very nice indeed. You've got the handle there to open it and all that kind of thing. And once again, there is an attempt to put the blind behind the glazing unit, which, you know, looks really, really good. Back window looks nice. You've got this handrail that ran down the stairs across. It was across the inside of the window. It's very, very nice to put it on. It's just printed on. It doesn't actually look too bad. It's unlike the side windows that look obviously printed, that doesn't look too bad at all. It's a very nice feature. Got the indicators up there, the 3 backlights with nice silver surrounds as well, and the registration plate put into a little recess as it would be. The back looks really, really good. Round to the offside again, wheel disc that shouldn't be there, but hey, you know, panel lines are nice. The step to get up for the driver there. The handle on the door is modelled as well. Front wheel nice. And yeah, printed windows looking a bit too printed to be fair, but you know, again, not too bad from normal viewing distances. The roof, not much to report, just the panel lines on there. And if I flip over to the chassis, there's some nice detail there actually. The chassis members are there. You've got the gearbox, fuel tank, all that kind of thing, transmission. Underside of the engine, and you know, yeah, it looks very, very good indeed. And then we go to the interior with some difficulty, and yeah, the seats are modelled in a nice maroon colour that the real ones were. They would benefit from having the backs picked out in grey and a bit of relief colour on the floor, but the detail isn't too bad. Sorry, I'm not actually on the screen, am I? And you can see just about the moulded handrails and things on the back of the seats as well, which are lovely. Again, they benefit from being picked out in silver. But all in all, it is not bad. As I say, it is a curious mix of the really, really good, like the blind area, the indicators and all that kind of thing, and the slightly iffy, the sort of missing opening screen and things like that. And they're printed on vent. I know some people think I'm being overly picky with these reviews, but one of the purposes of doing them is to inform you what you get for your money. If you're thinking about buying one, but you're not sure whether to or not, you can watch this and see what it actually looks like and what you get for your money. And as I've said before, there's no point in me telling you it's all 100% spot on accurate when it isn't. So, you know, I present these things. If they're a problem to you, then they are. If they're not, they're not. Each to their own, you know. Some people won't be bothered by it. Some people it will put them off. But it's just so you can make an informed decision. I'm just telling you how it is. I'm not being overly picky. All in all, it is a really, really good model. And it's very, very nice, especially in this livery. So how much one of these cost you if you want to put it in your collection? Well, this one was £17.36. I'm a bit upset with myself because I've just found some cheaper ones, and as you know, I'm quite tight. I like to pay the least possible for my models, and yeah, so normally I'll buy the cheapest one I can find, and I haven't done on this occasion. But mine came from eBay, and it's second hand, but it is very nice. It's got the certificate, it's got the box, and all that kind of thing. So I've had a look on eBay for the purposes of the video. I'm doing this in September of 2025. The cheapest one I could find was £17.99, including postage and packing. And that was the East Midland one, but the 46309B on Route 15A. For some reason, the 15A generally tends to be cheaper than the one on the 16. But yeah, so that was that one. This livery, different blind, £17.99, 18 quid in other words. The most expensive one I could find on eBay was £69.95, so 70 quid. Again, including postage and packing, and that was in the Shilly Beer Omnibus commemorative livery, London Transport one in the green and cream Shilly Beer livery. The model shop in Eastbourne that I look at sometimes, Illis Keith, they were the ones that could furnish you with a cheaper one. Most of the prices are in the 30s. You've got the Boulogne advert, another London Transport one, but in a yellow all over advert for Boulogne, and they range between £26 and £31. They had a London and Country green one, that was £32 and or £34. They had two of those different prices. They got a London Transport red one for £33. In all cases, about £4 postage and packing on top of that. So you're looking somewhere between £35 and £38, including postage. However, what I did find as well, which upset me a little bit, was they'd got the East Midland ones, both of them for 12 quid. 46309A and B, brand new for £12 with £4 postage on top, giving you a total of £16. They had a few in stock, so if you do want one, have a look at Illis Keith. They are selling brand new ones cheaper than you can get a second hand one on eBay, and cheaper just than I paid for this one, but hey ho, you can't win them all. So yeah, as I say, if you want one of these, 16 quid as I'm doing this at Illis Keith in Eastbourne. So that's it for this one. All in all, it is a nice model. I'd recommend getting it. If you like Routemasters, obviously you're going to want one anyway, but you know, it does have some foibles, but it doesn't look too bad from normal viewing distances. In fact, it looks really nice, especially in this livery, and it's a good addition to my collection. So as I said, I'll put links in the description to some of the other Routemaster reviews that I've done. There will be some other ones coming in the future as well. I've got another EFE one on order, on pre-order, the new EFE release, the updated casting. So we'll see what that one's like. And there's other scales that I've not done yet. There's a HO one available, and there's an Engage one. I keep meaning to acquire an Engage one at some point as well. So I will be doing that one. For my regular viewer Steve, who likes his Engage reviews, don't worry, I will do an Engage Routemaster at some point. But for now, as always, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.